Today on CityCast Chicago, local TV and film actors held another rally downtown last week as the actors and writers' strikes continue and production remains shut down. Clint Worthington is a freelance TV and film critic who's been covering the strike. He's here to give us an update about what it means for Chicago's industry and what viewers can expect on this side of the screen. It's Monday, August 7th. I'm Simona Licea in for Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Clint, welcome to CityCast Chicago.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell me what is sort of the latest that we know of so far in negotiations? Has there been any significant movement since actors joined the strike?
It's been pretty much at a standstill. You know, there was a solidarity walk in Grant Park just a few weeks ago with like more than 1,000, which comprised like I think the majority of unionized like SAG members and SAG and WGA members in the city. I know that as of last week, there were glimmers of a potential sit down with WGA, but I know WGA, like strike leaders, are sort of telling people to temper expectations because they've been down this road before. But otherwise, frustratingly, it seems as though the executives are kind of holding to that rumored that deadline story that came out a little bit where some anonymous executives or people close to them were talking about how they just kind of want to sit and wait out the strike and see how far how far people's savings are saved up. And, you know, that weird quote about people losing their apartments and their homes and then coming back to the negotiating table. It's been a pretty frustrating time, honestly, even sitting outside of it, just hoping for a peaceful resolution to the strike, to see how intransigent it seems that the negotiations are being.
Do the studios here have any standing, have any point here that they're trying to make that is legitimate? I mean, it's tough after that reporting after reporting said like we're waiting for people to lose their apartments. It's tough to like come back from that. But, you know, is there any leg to stand on here?
It's tough. It's really hard to see things like Bob Iger calling the claims unrealistic when he pulled $31 million in personal income last year while people are struggling to keep their homes, when the vast majority of these unions don't qualify for the mere $26,000 a year it takes to qualify for health insurance. I think there was a reporting a week or two ago that said that the sum total of money that studios would end up paying out if the studios met the union's demands is somewhere in the realm of $450 to $500 million a year, which sounds like a lot until you imagine the sheer amount of profit that the film and TV industry nationwide and globally makes. And when you're wanting to allocate, when you don't want to take that from the people who are acting in your productions and writing the productions, then that feels super greedy. And just also people want to be able to know that their job isn't going to be taken over by a wonky AI algorithm in the near future. This is the time to decide that. And especially since most people are watching stuff on streaming, they want to know how many people are watching it and how much money they're actually going to get from people watching something over and over. So those are the issues that people are worried about. And so I think in that context, I don't think it's unreasonable at all.
I'll point out too that $500 million is 1/32 of the city of Chicago's entire budget. It's
right,
like one third of the Chicago, less than that. It's like 1/6 of the Chicago police budget. It's
right,
it's not a lot of money when we're talking about this scale.
Exactly. And I think even at that rally, one of the representatives, one of the aldermen who stood in solidarity, was talking to them about how many millions of dollars Chicago gives Hollywood in sort of, subsidies and all kinds of incentives to film here. They owe them a contract. They owe them the basic level of protections for the amount of money they're taking from the city. They can give something back. So I think that's more than worth a consideration.
What have you been hearing from local actors that you've spoken to about why they're striking and how they're feeling right now?
Sure. So especially, I mean, local is pretty much an extension of national as well, but there are some specificities to Chicago's film and TV production industry. For those who don't know, obviously a lot of Chicago set stuff is shot here, all the Chicago Med, PD, Fire, the whole Dick Wolf-averse, and shows like Shameless and the Chi and The Bear, especially FX's The Bear. And a lot of that stuff is shut down right now. And I know a lot of Chicago actors are feeling the hurt, and but they also stand in solidarity industry. One actor I quoted in my story for Block Club Chicago, Michael B. Woods. We had a great conversation where we discussed the sense of solidarity that happens sort of nationwide, where a lot of folks in LA and New York are really standing, and a lot of labor organizations in Chicago are standing together. So it's, a lot of the issues they're really fighting for are residuals.
Residuals, just for people who aren't super familiar with the industry, what does that mean?
Sure. So when you work on a show, you, of course, get paid for the episode you do, whether you're a lead actor or a regular or a guest star. But especially if you work in a network show, and it is technically true for streaming as well, though the numbers are much smaller, you get paid in perpetuity for when that show goes on a rerun or gets aired again. Every time it airs somewhere, you're going to get a check. And that is very important for actors and writers because it's not an all year thing unless you're one of the very rare few who is so successful that they can work year round. A lot of times actors and writers will have to subsist on residuals in slower seasons while they wait for, say, pilot season or a new show that they're pitching to get picked up or to join a writer's room for those shows that still have writer's rooms. But basically over the last few years, those opportunities have been shrinking as shows get smaller and smaller writers' rooms, get shorter and shorter seasons, like network shows will maybe have around 20, 22 episodes. A lot of streaming shows, as you may know, have like maybe 8 to 10 episode seasons. So that's fewer episodes to get paid for. And also streaming is very not transparent with how many people are actually viewing their stuff. So it's hard to get a good number on residual numbers there. So really the strike is about keeping up with sort of quality of life and being able to maintain a basic level of living. It's borderline apocalyptic, like what they're looking for survival, really. It's not really like a modest pay bump that they're looking for. These are ways to keep ahead in an increasingly precarious landscape for them.
So writers have been on strike since early this summer. Actors joined a little bit later. What do you think is the significance of them coming together on this?
Well, I think it's really a testament to how bad things are and also optimistically how much creatives stand in solidarity with one another. One frustration that I know WGA and SAG people have is that the DGA was also threatening to go on strike as well.
That's the Directors Guild, correct?
Yeah, the Directors Guild of America, yeah. So actors, writers, and directors, having a three-pronged strike would have really generated a lot of momentum to find a peaceful resolution. But they worked out a deal with executives pretty early on, and I think there's a sense of frustration that it would have, their solidarity would have meant even more. But the fact that WGA and SAG are standing together right now, I think shows how important they know they are to each other and how important they know they are to the entertainment business. And I think they see the same threats through lack of pay and streaming residuals and wage increases and the rise of AI especially. I think they see that the rising tide lifts all boats. And so if the writers and actors can both come to an agreement, then everyone benefits.
You talked a little bit about productions that have shut down here in Chicago and sort of just the how that has sort of created. I think one source that you quoted in your Block Club story called it, Cinespace was called a ghost town, right? There's just sort of this quietude that has come over film and TV production here in Chicago. But I am curious, how is this strike and just the fact that we're expecting it to continue for who knows how long? It's already been ongoing for months and weeks now. How is sort of the scene playing out here in Chicago that's maybe different from what people are seeing in coverage of LA or New York, for example?
My source, Michael, the actor I talked to, was talking about the tension that happens with Chicago actors where they are much less incentivized to make these demands of themselves because they're always worried, well, we can just bring in an actor from LA or New York to just fly them in to Chicago to shoot here. When there's a great pool of very talented creatives and artists and actors and writers and everybody here in Chicago. And so there is a sense of not trying to rock the boat sometimes. And so there is an added tension there by not being one of the major epicenters of film and TV production, but I think it goes to show how bad things are and how sort of dire these circumstances are that even they are putting this aside to stand in solidarity with everybody.
Well, and you can imagine too, because this is a strike across the industry, that maybe that empowers some of these local creatives
Yeah.
to actually finally make those demands that maybe they weren't empowered to do before.
Exactly. And I've talked to SAG strike captains who do feel emboldened by that nationwide support. Like this is a guild that has hundreds of thousands of members. So yeah, I think they are emboldened. I think people who are like number one on the call sheet are standing in solidarity with people who are number 101 on the call sheet. So because I think everyone is seeing the dangers to their livelihoods, whether they're an A-lister or not. And a lot of times these A-listers worked their way up to that level, so they know what it's like. And there was a video with Simu Liu a couple of days ago sort of talking about that, how a lot of folks paid their dues as background actors. And they want to make sure that those people on those sets have the same protections and the same ability to make a living that they do, and are also not threatened by getting photo scanned and just having their image used in perpetuity in AI deepfakes or whatever in the background and never getting a cent again.
Another group of people that you spoke to here in Chicago are tradespeople who work on sets and who do all kinds of things on productions, and they are not striking.
Yeah.
But of course, they're not working on these local productions. What have they told you about sort of how they see the strike and what's happening?
Yeah, it's really interesting and complicated because on the one hand, they absolutely stand in solidarity with SAG and WGA. They are in principle on the side of labor and making sure that people have they see the executives making billions of dollars and millions of dollars in revenue and not passing it along, where wages for regular workaday artists and creatives are staying stagnant, whereas executive CEO pay is skyrocketing. And at the same time, it is still dramatically affecting their ability to work. I know a lot of tradespeople are moving out of working on show business and working just as tradespeople in other industries in Chicago, and it makes the talent pool that much smaller when things cool down. And I also know that there is sometimes, and this is sort of anecdotal, I think this is a general sort of, there's a general sort of support, but sometimes there is a small resentment from tradespeople that they feel that when it is time for them to go to the negotiating table, sometimes SAG and WGA don't stand with them in the same level of solidarity that they expect otherwise when the shoe's on the other foot. Whether that's true or not, that is up to them, but that is sort of some of the sentiment that I am feeling, where they agree in principle, they are also very much feeling it in their wallets.
From what we can tell, both parties sound like they're in this for the long haul. What do you think this will mean for Chicago's film and TV industry in the near future and beyond?
Oh, it is tough. I mean, I think as with any of these strikes, there's going to be inevitably a contraction, even if we come to an agreement at some point, even if creatives and the Producers Guild come to an agreement. But, I still think there's still going to be room for Chicago stories, Chicago set stories. I think the rise in popularity of shows like The Bear that have become these like viral hits. It's one of my favorite shows of the year, especially the second season. And then, I don't think Dick Wolf would set up a different series for every municipal service in Chicago's history if there wasn't value in audiences wanting to see these kinds of stories in our city. So I certainly hope that when the dust settles, there's still room for this, although I think there's still just sort of going to be rough waters ahead.
In addition to the industry itself, what are you watching for on sort of this side of the screen? We've got summer blockbuster season coming to a close. Fall TV season is approaching, and yet we kind of have this big strike hanging over everything. Like, what can maybe consumers, TV watchers, the rest of us kind of expect to see on this side of things?
Well, for sure. I guess one thing I do want to say is that obviously just go see Barbie and Oppenheimer as many times as you possibly can. That's one thing I've been so grateful for as a film and TV critic, because a lot of us get worried about the state of like artistic output and worried about like, people only want to see Marvel movies. But this is a year where Marvel movies are tanking, and suddenly two movies from like that are auteur driven that like, one is a biopic and one is based on existing IP, but they are fresh ideas. They're good movies, and people are going out in droves to see them. Like they outperformed a Mission Impossible movie, for God's sake.
I did a Barbie brunch. I dressed up and did the whole thing. Yeah. It was, We're out there.
It just showed me that if you build it, they will come. So there's a rich cinematic history. You don't just have to see new releases. I highly encourage people to dig into archives, dig into stuff. I always tell people like, watch a movie watch a movie that was made before you were born. Watch a movie that was set in black and white. Watch a movie with subtitles. Like, there are great movies out there. There's a whole cinematic history you can take some time to catch up on while we wait for productions to pick back up. And also, there are houses in certain productions that are working with SAG and WGA to work out individual deals where if they're meeting their individual demands, they are authorized to continue production. I believe A24 Productions qualify there. So if you're an A24 fan, go see Talk to Me in theaters now.
Those are the folks for folks who don't know, behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? Which might be the one that people know. And
exactly. And Get Out and all kinds of big movies. They're sort of like probably the most mainstream indie studio right now. But they and some other productions are working out deals. But yeah, I think there's still plenty of options. The movies and TV have been around for nearly 100 years now, more so in the case of film. And maybe this is a good opportunity for us to sort of look back and see stuff that we maybe missed, or classics that we always said we would get around to, or things like that. There's just a vast library of stuff to sift through until this strike is resolved.
In the fall TV realm, because again, that to me, fall TV season is my favorite. Like, it's my favorite time of year. This is what I look forward to every fall. And we've been in a strike for the past, pretty much all summer. So I have to say I'm a little worried, and I don't know what to expect this season.
I know. Well, there's some really good stuff coming up. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm still just kind of enjoying right now the second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's sort of the adventures of the Enterprise before Kirk becomes captain. And it's really fun. You see like a young Ensign Uhura played by Celia Rose Gooding, who's a Tony winner. And just this past week, as we record this, they put out Trek's first ever musical episode, which is a delight. It's so fun. It's an absolute like goofy, corny cheeseball delight. And I rewatched it yesterday. It's really, really great. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be plenty of stuff to still see. You may see sort of a rise of more reality content, as was the case with the last strike in 2007, 2008. But yeah, there's still going to be plenty of scripted shows that were filmed before the strike that should be coming out in the fall.
Clint, thank you so much for taking the time and breaking this down with me.
No, this was lovely. Thank you so much.
And a little bit of news before we let you go. The temporary casino at the Medina Temple in River North is now set to open in September. Bally's has pushed back the opening a couple times over the summer as the casino awaits final approvals from state gambling authorities. And some good news to get you through. The Illinois State Fair starts this week. Make sure you're subscribed to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago, where we'll have a guide to Springfield and some State Fair history. That way you can get the most out of your trip and you can properly admire the famous butter cow. Subscribe at chicago.citycast.fm. Host Jacoby Cochran is back tomorrow when we'll be talking about the news and chatting about which cities truly count as Midwestern. We'll talk to you then. Yeah. Also, I've been peeping you on Twitter too, and I like your takes. I think your takes are good takes. So
thank you. I've been posting less and less as that place goes more and more into a hellscape. But God, you never want to be on your deathbed being like, I should have tweeted more.